people that we love. Thank you for coming. And we would really miss an opportunity if we didn't say thank you to the people of this church, East Mennonite. May we experience the presence of God, the love of God, the mercy and forgiveness and grace of God in God's people in these days. May we experience that. So, I think it says up here, transforming our hearts, transformation. If you're paying any attention, you know it is one of those in kind of things these days. Everybody's transforming. Athletes are transforming. Fast food restaurants transforming. Churches transforming. Universities transforming. Wall Street, Main Street, the back alley. Everyone interested in transformation. It is one of those cool things. Transforming the old to the new. Transforming anger, violence to kindness and love. I Googled the word transformation, on the Google machine. Yeah, I'm old. I told my kids I was going to Google the word on the Google machine. And in less than a second, actually it was 28.28 of a second, I got 153 million results from the Google machine on transformation. It was transformation journals of all sorts, transformation math, transformation genetics, consciousness and transformation. It was just on and on and on. 153 million. But here, we want to talk about transforming the heart. Not fast food, not athletes, not even universities. We want to talk about transforming the heart. And not just any old heart. We want to talk about transforming our hearts. That's the theme for the weekend. And I said, really? Really? We want to consider transformation that runs so deep that it actually gets to our hearts? Really? Most often, we want to consider transformation that gets to that dude's heart over there. Tim. Because Tim really needs transformation. We know that about Tim. Thank you, Tim. You're a good sport. That's the way it is. Most often when we talk about transformation, we use the word our, but we mean someone else. Out there, across the street, down Colfax, somewhere else. Ezekiel 36:26. I will give you a new heart. I will put a new spirit in you. I will remove from you your heart of stone and replace it with a heart of flesh. Transforming our hearts. The key word in the message today is our. Not someone else's. Me and you. So I want to use most of my time this morning telling two stories. I did it back in RVD one time, and I told a couple stories, and the guy came up to me afterwards and said, "Man, you wouldn't have had enough to say if you didn't tell stories." I don't don't have much to say. I'm just going to tell you stories. You can take them whatever you want. The first story is about Sri Lanka, and the second story is about an explorer. But just so we don't forget in the midst of the stories, our theme is transforming our worlds. I'm always hesitant to unpack stories or music or artwork, because these things, look at that thing. I mean, they mean so many different things to different people. And when you tell people what it's supposed to mean, you sometimes pull away their own truth. And so I won't say much about the stories. I'll say a few things for your consideration. But I want to tell 2 stories. Believing that spirit that is in the midst of us will bring the truth. I apologize for my voice. I have a serious cold. That's why I don't sing. I know you thought I was back then, but my wife has been sick for a week, and she's hot. She's coughing and hacking, and all this crap comes out. And so I'm in the middle of that right now myself. So if it goes away, it just goes away. That's the way we'll do our best. Sri Lanka. In 2 weeks, it will have been 3 years since my last international trip. It was to the island nation of Sri Lanka, which is sometimes called the Pearl of the Indian Ocean. And that's exactly the way I experienced it. It was a cool place. This is a personal story. The task on this trip was to spend 7 days with a group of 25 or 30 young people, which in reality turned into being 50 or 60 people of all ages. And our job was to explore how we might create a less violent and more peaceful society. Sri Lanka had just emerged that year from almost 30 years of really violent civil war, bloody. It was nasty. So that was our task. I was working with a couple colleagues from southern India for an organization called the United Religions Initiative. And I discovered shortly after arriving that despite all of the assurances we'd been given that everyone would be fluent in English, really only about a half or a third of them could function in any way in the English language. So I decided almost immediately, it was sort of an instinctual thing, I decided I would sing a lot and speak very little, believing that the power of music often transcends what words can do. And I decided, if I'm going to come this far to be with this group of people, at least half of which we can't really communicate except other than all that, that stuff. If I'm going to come this far, I'm going to know every name when I leave. It left me with an experience that I've never had before and that I'll cherish the rest of my life. On the last day of our meeting together, one of my colleagues, without my knowing, said to the group, he said, I have 500 rupees for anyone who can do something that I can't. And that is to go around the room and say every name. And without thinking, I jumped, kicked my chair and went flying. It often happens to me, I don't think first. My chair went flying and I jumped up and I started going around the room and saying the names, 50 to 60 Sri Lankan names, trying to make them come out of just Amish mouth. It was a bumbling and stumbling, and they laughed and hooted and corrected me and told me what I had just said. And all of that stuff. Until the end, we were all on our feet, cheering and laughing. It was a moment. So it was about the third day of my visit there when I noticed 3 boys that looked to be teenage, early 20s, something like that. They were occasionally missing, and I knew that we were boring at times, but they were occasionally missing, and even when they were present, they seemed just a little bit disconnected. So I sought them out, It was early in the week, and I sought them out, giving the excuse that I wanted to know their names. I was doing his name. And I asked them, what they did for fun. I asked them about their family. I asked them about their faith, and these kinds of things. And I discovered in their broken English, these three boys were Muslims. And that they were the only three Muslims in the entire group. And that they were in the middle of the holy days of Ramadan, which meant they fasted from sun to sundown for nearly a month. Now we could talk a long time about that. They fasted from sun to sundown. I don't know how many of us have been connected with folks who are going through that month-long process. That is a commitment to have a child. Anyway, they had wanted to come, even though they were in the middle of Ramadan, because they wanted to be with us. They were such a minority in the population that they understood the need for peaceful solutions. They wanted to be with their friends, their counterparts. There was also one Tamil boy there. And for those of you who know the history of Sri Lanka, you know that the Tamil people were the people that were defeated in the Civil War. There was one Tamil boy there. I admired his courage tremendously. This Civil War had just ended. One Tamil boy and 3 Christians, of which I was one. The rest of the folks were mostly Buddhist, as Sri Lanka is primarily a Buddhist nation. So back to the boys. I asked them about the fast, what they did, why they did it, when, where, all this stuff. I don't know anything. I just have to ask. And they were so excited to tell me about the fast and why they did it and when they were breaking, that kind of stuff. And I said, hey, is it acceptable for me to be present tonight when you break the fast? Oh, that would be great. That would be great. So I joined them that evening and we continued our conversation. I was the only American there, and it seemed important to them that an American cared about them, about their faith. We talked about, I won't go into that. But I did ask them along the way, I said, the rest of the group doesn't know you. Could you stand before us in the morning and explain what you're doing? Because nobody knows this. So they agreed. They stood the next morning and they stumbled and, said a few words about Ramadan, about being Muslim, about what it meant to them, those kinds of things. And it was very well received, and I had asked them ahead of time, can I invite the rest of the group to break the fast tonight? They said that would be great. And so I invited the group to come and break the fast. That evening, as the sun was setting over the Indian Ocean, about 35 young people and middle-aged people and old people came. Mostly Buddhists, a few Christians, and one Tamil boy. People who knew almost nothing about Islam came to try to be present, to try to understand, to try to build bridges across long-standing violent divides. They came and they broke the fast. 3 Muslim boys. And as they did that, that gaze of mistrust and violence melted just a little bit. Not completely, just a little bit. Just a little bit. And the road toward transformation just appeared on the horizon. meeting that I won't forget that involved transforming my heart. My heart. It involved taking risks, being in spaces that were unfamiliar, and honestly, for some of us, that were quite frightening. It involved respecting and caring for human beings that were created by God in the image and likeness of God, even if they were from another faith tradition. And if I'm honest, I must say that I have never felt more fully Christian than I was in those moments. More fully a child of God and a follower of Jesus than I was in those moments. Ezekiel 36:26 says, I will give you a new heart. I will give you a new heart. I will put a new spirit in you. I will remove from you your heart of stone and put in you a heart of flesh, transforming our hearts. Story number 2, an explorer. It's a story that I've heard at a variety of places. I've never seen it written, so I wrote down a few years ago. Just a version that I felt like fit reading, and I told it a few places. But I would like to give credit to folks who have inspired me over the years for this story, because it's not necessarily mine. Once upon a time in a land far, far away. I've always wanted to start a story like that. Why not? It's perfect time. Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, nestled at the foot of a mountain, was a little village. How cool is that? It was a beautiful place to live, and for the most part, the villagers were very satisfied. There were no roads in this village leading to or from, and so there were almost never visitors. The villagers almost never left. Each night the villagers would gather around a fire, tell stories. They tell stories about places they imagined, life in other places. One evening in the middle of the night of storytelling, a young woman stepped forward and said very hesitantly, I'd like to be an explorer. Wonderful, exclaimed the elders. Wonderful. We'll tell you all the stories we know. By the time you're our age, you'll be able to tell the stories to your kids and your grandkids and carry on the tradition. Thank you so much, she said. But I really want to do more than learn the stories. I want to be an explorer. Villagers were silent. They loved this young girl. They knew explorers almost never came back. What do you mean you want to be an explorer? Shyly, the young woman continued, I want to go and see and do the things that I hear you talk about in your stories. What? You want to leave here? Immediately, almost everyone was talking. Well, you can't do that. You don't know how to go anywhere. You don't know how to take care of yourself. You don't know how to feed yourself, to find shelter. Why, the stories we tell, they're not about us. They're about our ancestors, 3, 4, 5 generations ago. We can't expect ourselves to be like them, nor do we want to be. No. In time, the uproar died down. All were still simply looking at the young woman. I want to be an explorer, she said, and I plan to leave in the morning. As morning broke, the young explorer rose early, packed a bag of food, rolled up her sleeping pad, said goodbye. The villagers walked with her to the edge of the meadow and watched as she walked along the base of the mountain. They prayed. They loved her. They prayed for her safety. She was